how about Dusty May from Michigan? Multiple outlets reporting that Dusty May is linked to not only the Orlando Magic, but also the Golden State Warriors in case Steve Kerr steps down. He met earlier this week, Steve Kerr, with Warriors brass, including GM Mike Dunleavy Jr. for the second time in as many weeks. They still don't have a decision on whether Steve Kerr is coming back or not. So could Dusty May go from FAU, where he brought him to the Final Four, to Michigan, where he wins a national championship this year in year 2? Meteoric rise. Could he go right to the NBA here? How legit? What percent chance do you think this could happen here? Dusty May all of a sudden coaching in the NBA? Or is this maybe a page out of Dan Hurley's playbook? What do you think, Brad?
Look, and I think there was actually smoke to that fire with Dan Hurley. Dan would tell you that. I think it's greater than a 30% chance that Dusty May could take the jump, leaving Ann Arbor and going somewhere in the NBA. You mentioned the 2 teams he is connected to. The original report came out a couple of days ago from Mark Stein, and this is what Stein said. He said, quote, league sources say that the Magic are admirers of Michigan's Dusty May, would have a level of interest if he were indeed available. It must be noted that the expectation at this point in the college game is that May will stay with the Wolverines after they beat UConn for the national title. Does May, however, indeed have NBA aspirations? End quote. And then he brought up the additional link with the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors, I think, are an ideal fit really for Dusty May. You look at him personality-wise, and I think he's an excellent fit. For if he had aspirations to go to the NBA, wherever it may be, he's a cool cat, a mild-mannered kind of guy, not fiery, not in your face, and a guy that's just a stellar X's and O's coach, pushes the right buttons. He looks like an NBA coach. He really does. And now he's reached the pinnacle, the mountaintop of the college basketball world in just year 2 there at the University of Michigan. You mentioned the achievements that he had at teeny tiny Florida Atlantic. What's really left for him to prove? Now, obviously, he could be like Danny Hurley. He could build, quite the legacy, quite the story at the collegiate level, maybe win additional titles at the University of Michigan. If the Indiana job ever opened up. Remember, he was a manager on Indiana Hoosiers, teams back in the day. I think he's always wanted to coach in Bloomington at that, it's still kind of a blue blood. A lot of people who consider a former blue blood. That might entice him and lure him away. That would be a little bit muddy, a little bit sticky, leaving Michigan and going to a rival Big Ten school in Indiana, but I certainly think that would be on the table if Darren DeVries got fired or moved on. That could open up. So there's a number of different avenues that Dusty May could travel down. But I think it would be really enticing. More than anything else is Golden State, man. The opportunity to coach Steph Curry. I know Steph is getting a little bit longer in the tooth, may only have a couple of years left. But I think he is a guy that could be plug and play immediately. And I think he's a guy that if you did hire him would garner immediate success as well. Dusty May, no matter where he coaches, he flat out wins because he's a brilliant basketball mind, tactician, and a guy that's got the exact right personality, whether at the collegiate game, which is kind of a semi-pro basketball now, or with the true elites in the NBA.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I say the Dan Hurley playbook. Remember, a couple years ago, Dan Hurley flirted, and you thought there was smoke to that fire, fire to that smoke, whatever the term would be. And I agree with you. I think he was really close to taking the Lakers job, and then they ended up going with J.J. Redick. But I also do think that Dan Hurley knew that there was a chance that he'd be willing to move his family and his wife and his kids to Los Angeles if it was the right deal. And then UConn said, all right, hold on, we'll pony up here. We'll give you a fat new contract extension, whatever you want, Danny. And it worked. And I do think that was the goal. He was trying, hey, you know what? If I'm going to flirt here, if I'm going to see what's at least, UConn, why don't you give me a couple more $1 million? Why don't you pony up here? Here's the thing. A lot of people are probably listening and saying, well, Pat, Dusty May just signed a contract extension. Did he? Did he? Is that official yet? Because I remember just a week ago, I remember a month ago, A.D. Ward Emanuel said to the entire crowd at the Chrysler Center where they're celebrating the national championship, Dusty May, we've already reached an agreement. He's going to be the Michigan basketball coach for years to come, and that reportedly the deal is a 5-year contract. That hasn't been signed yet. That hasn't been signed yet. Not at least a week ago, when Dusty May said himself that it was just a formality, an unsigned Michigan deal. This new contract extension was just a formality, and that the lawyers are going to work out the details, and it would probably be finished around this, sometime this summer. If that pen hasn't been put to that paper, man, then everything is on the table for him to possibly Shanghai Ann Arbor and go to either the Orlando Magic or the Golden State Warriors, like you said. And I think that's what he's waiting for. I think he's waiting to see if Steve Kerr is not coming back as the Warriors head coach. Dusty May already knows, right? Whether Billy Donovan is at the top of their list and they don't care about what happened 19 years ago and they want to bring him back anyway, or it's Tibbs, or Tibbs not even a conversation in Orlando, Dusty May is going to be at the top of that list or right near it. I mean, he's deserved it, right? I mean, I don't care what the jump is from college to the pros. The bridge has been the gap has been bridged to a certain extent with NIL, and they're basically semi-professional players at this point anyway. So it's then, can he just coach in the NBA? And look at Michigan's offense this year. Yeah, he probably can. And if Dusty May wants to, he's going to get a conversation with the Orlando Magic. And if Steve Kerr and the Warriors say, hey, you know what, man? Thanks for an amazing coaching career. Thanks for an amazing 15 years. We'd like to move on. Dusty May is going to be at the top of that Golden State list as well. And then he's really going to try to get every single last penny that he can out of Michigan, which he should. It's a capitalist market. We live in a capitalist society. He should try to get, hey, that contract hasn't been signed yet. Why don't you tack on another year? Why don't you tack on another $2 or $3 million per year? And let's see what happens. I don't think these reports and these rumors are going away here in the next couple of weeks here, Brad, especially once we find out about Steve Kerr's future. I think Dusty May, it's more than a 30% chance. I think it's 50-50 that he leaves the Wolverines.
Oh, that's fascinating. And the other thing I'll add on to, and this is more fuel for your fire, is that there was another report that came out a couple of weeks ago that Dusty May wasn't really thrilled with the facilities for basketball at the University of Michigan. And let's call a spade a spade. Michigan is always football first, right? They pump all kinds of money in the big house at that program. It is like one of the true blue bloods, if you will, on the gridiron. So basketball is always second fiddle. Yes, even off a national championship. So I think Dusty May maybe wants to go somewhere where basketball is always first. And that's certainly going to be the case with the Golden State Warriors. Certainly going to be the case with the Orlando Magic as well. It's just a kind of a different feeling, a different atmosphere, different environment. And it might fit what he needs in his career at this arc or juncture on the arc overall. So, and here's a scenario that could really play out, Pat. Let's throw out this hypothetical. Let's say you are correct that it's greater than 50-50 or at least 50-50 that Dusty May leaves Ann Arbor and takes one of those two NBA jobs or another NBA job that may open up. Let's say he bolts to the association and that University of Michigan job is open. Now, I thought there for a while post the college basketball season when the champion was crowned, that being Michigan, we're going to see domino effect and more of those dominoes falling in the coaching ranks. I really didn't have a whole lot of that this year, but if he were to make the jump, you could get it again if they hire another established college coach from somewhere else. Or here's the curveball, Billy Donovan. Maybe he thinks to himself, you know what? I do want to go back to college. I don't want to sit out a year. I don't want to take the Orlando job. I don't want to take any other NBA job. Maybe he goes and sits and has a conversation with the AD at Michigan and goes into that program and picks it up from there. That would be one hell of a swap and all kinds of ripple effects as a result of Billy Donovan, again, axed by the Bulls, does not go to another NBA franchise, stiff arms them, returns to college at Michigan, and Dusty May bolts to the NBA. How about that? That would write all kinds of headlines.
Oh, yeah, big time. I could see that happening. I could see it happening. Absolutely. Steve Kerr and the Warriors decide, let's part ways. Dusty May gets the Warriors job, in a market where there's billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, and they're looking for the successor to Steve Kerr and the final couple years of Steph, and then how they're going to retool that roster afterwards and life after Steph Curry. But he knows that he's with a pretty damn good organization, with a great owner, and a team that's willing to spend. and then Billy Donovan jumps to Ann Arbor and takes his job. That would be incredible, and I could see it happening.